Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm going to be telling you how to throw an elegant afternoon tea. All of the savory bites and the sweet treats I'm going to be showing you today are perfect because you can change the amounts and you can make them ahead of time. This is my own little quiche recipe here. There's no actual measurements because I'm just kind of using however many ingredients I would like according to my taste. So I'm using bacon today. I'm also using green onion, but you could easily put chives or other herbs in here as well. And I'm also using some double smoked cheddar and Parmesan, but you can use whatever cheeses you desire. I did this portion the night before, so I wouldn't have to do any more prep for this in the morning. The next thing you're going to do is generously butter a muffin or cupcake pan, and I am using my homemade pie crust here. So if you want to go check out that recipe, you can go ahead and click this upper right hand corner. Alternatively, you could use store-bought pie crusts instead. You just have to make sure that they are unbaked. The reason that I like using my homemade pie crust is it's way tastier, and you also can shape it into whatever shape that you would like. Be sure to poke holes in those little pie crusts, and I put this in the freezer overnight, and then I just took it out and I'm filling it with those fillings that I prepared, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of salt and pepper in about 4 or 5 eggs, and then I'm going to pour that egg mixture over top. I like a nice browned and super shiny crust, so I'm going to take a little bit of whipping cream and mix it with that leftover egg, and then I'm going to brush it over the top of the crust. You want to bake these for about 45 minutes before your guests arrive. They're going to go into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. That extra 15 minutes just gives it time to set up. The whole feel of today's high tea is I wanted to have a very modern feel, so I left the edge of those pie crusts really just free and open. These are flaky and cheesy and savory. Moving on to our next savory bite. This caramelized onion and brie toast is super easy because you can make a ton of them, or you can just make a small amount and you can make it ahead of time. Excuse my super poor knife skills here. I am not trained at all in this. All right, so you want to take a generous amount of butter, and then you're going to place it in your pan, let that heat up, and then you're just going to place your onions in. The trick to caramelizing your onions is to kind of do it at medium. You don't want your onions to brown too much. You want them to get more translucent first. That's what's going to draw out that sweet flavor in them. Most high teas or afternoon teas that I've been to use good quality bread, so just choose something that is really yummy and delicious. Try to avoid using that bread that literally lasts for weeks in a bag. Try to get something maybe from the fresh bakery, or you can go a step further and make your own bread. As you can see here, I've placed everything on parchment paper, and you can do several toasts at a time and then just put all your ingredients on top. Now this next savory bite is my absolute favorite. I'm going super fast with this because there's not a whole lot of things that you need to do to this. Just some cream cheese or avocado and then your salmon on top. I'm going that extra fancy mile and adding on some lobster oil. It just adds a really nice sumptuous flavor to any seafood that you're having. Moving on to our sweet treats. All of the treats I'm going to be showing you today are things that you can make ahead, and you can also make them smaller. Since you're going to be serving a lot of different treats, you want to make sure that they are nice and small so that people won't get too full. I've made a video for this recipe before, so I will just leave that in the right-hand corner and you can go and check it out. I literally threw this tea party idea together in one night, so I did have to do some preparation the night before. You could make the cupcakes on the day of, but I just tend to like to do this beforehand. Also, you can always have cupcakes ready on the go, just frozen, uniced, and that way when you have company or guests over, you can just whip them out and quickly make some buttercream. In my desserts today, I am going to be doing a couple variations because I'm setting up a little tea for my sister and my mom, and I'm also setting up a tea for Aria, and she is going to have a kind of Disney-themed tea. This cupcake recipe is great for cupcakes, and it's also awesome for cakes too. I pretty much use this recipe 90% of the time in most of my videos. Mini cupcakes obviously take less time to bake, so they're only going to be in your oven for about 12 to 14 minutes. I like my cupcakes a little bit more golden. If you like them less golden, then obviously leave them in for less time, but still make sure that they are done by testing it with a toothpick and it should come out clean. We are now at the day of the tea, and I am icing my cupcakes with this kind of bluey, purpley color. I wanted it to match the china that I'm using today, and for all my sweets, I'm going to try to have this kind of coolish tone color. Now remember, whenever you're putting the tea together, if you do want it to have a particular theme, you need to think about color palette. In terms of color palette today, what I'm thinking of is just cool tones. I'm also going to be throwing in dashes of gold and silver as well. Links to all of the tools and materials that I'm using are down below in the description box. They help support the channel if you do end up buying something at no extra cost to you. These cupcakes can be left out at room temperature until you're ready to serve them for your tea. I am trying out this macaron recipe that I have never used before. In all of my success stories of macarons, I've always used the same exact recipe, and I actually took a class to learn that recipe, so I've never been able to share it with you. This recipe is one that I found on the internet that is highly talked about in the macaron making community, so I thought I'd give it a try. Now, I will preface this by saying this method is tricky if you've never made macarons before. The reason that I even bothered making this recipe or trying today is because I needed to accomplish making macarons in less than 2 hours. My recipe takes around 4 hours to fully execute. This recipe's method uses the French meringue method, which means that you don't have to heat any sugar. It also skips the part where you process all of the sugar and almond flour together. So that was a huge time saver. What I will say about this method is that it is trickier to do this step right here, which is getting the batter just right. The only reason I think I was able to do it is because I've made macarons so many times. The other thing about this recipe is I didn't get as amazing of feet, which is the bottom bubbly part of the macaron. They were quite small. They were there, but they were quite small. I don't think this is the fault of the recipe. The recipe itself is actually super in-depth, and it really explains things very well, especially if you're just starting out making macarons. I think just for my temperature climate, because whenever you're using the French method, it's more susceptible to things like humidity. So I think I just needed to let my macarons set for a little bit longer. Then that way I think I would have gotten taller feet. I will put the link in the description box below. I highly recommend you check it out if you want a nice and quick macaron recipe. I also did a few Mickey Mouse ones here, which is a great introduction to doing shaped macarons because it's really just circles. Now, I must put a disclaimer that I didn't let these macarons mature for 24 hours like the recipe says. I have another batch that I'm letting mature now, so I'm going to try and see what the difference is. But the taste and texture of these macarons is absolutely perfect. There's not too much sweetness and there's no hollow shells. They were nice and full. The next thing you need to do is work with your space. My kitchen area is very gray and silver, so that's why I went with this color palette, and my dining area is also quite long. So I went with a more clean and linear lineup. I'm also using disposable napkins today, but you can kind of glam them up by using real napkin rings. Aria is taking a little break from Aria attempts this week, but she still wanted to participate in this lovely tea party. You could go a step further with this little Mickey Mouse theme, and you could make all the sandwiches Mickey shaped as well with a cookie cutter. The general rule of thumb when you're hosting a tea is you want to make sure you have at least one type of sandwich for each person and one type of sweet for each person. But of course, there's nothing wrong with making some extras. And for our tea selection today, we are having some cinnamon toast cardamom. You could always serve different types of tea and go that extra mile. And if you're having more guests, then it would be really nice to have several pots of teas going at once. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of this sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. I can't believe there are 270 sweeties out there that have been watching me and have helped me on this journey so far. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you for the next video.